Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who got a little lost in his support for his partner. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we are not. We are fallible, mistake-ridden humans like all of you are. And these are just our opinions. So please take our opinions as you see fit, our advice as you see fit in your life. We're just here to offer our humble, and inherently flawed musings.
You're really harping on it today. Did something happen in our DMs that I should be aware of?
No. I don't check our DMs. We're hoping to shed some understanding and maybe some laughs on the incredibly rewarding, but mostly confusing experience that is love.
For sure. All right, let's get into today's letter, which comes from Supportive But Devastated, whose pronouns are he, him, who is writing from the ashes of my former life, which is just devastating. Aww. Hey, JBU. First of all, I wanted to thank you for your empathetic and nuanced approach to the messiness that is our relationships. It's with that nuance that I'm hoping you can give some advice on mixed orientation relationships. Unfortunately, most straight people are incredibly myopic or unable to give any sound feedback, which is why I feel compelled to reach out to the queer community without hopefully taking up too much space or asking too much emotional labor. I, he, him, am a cishet man who met my ex-wife, she, her, after our first marriages had ended, ones where we weren't fully able to express ourselves sexually. She had let me know that she was bisexual and had a toxic relationship with a woman in college. I fully accepted this part of her, as with that knowledge, she was still choosing to be with me. When we got engaged, one of the cornerstones that we decided on was that we were going to approach things differently with regards to our relationship and the possibility of being monogamish. And after a few booze-fueled threesomes with a female friend, after we got through our wedding, we decided to start exploring things more intentionally by consuming books and podcasts and seeking out those who were interested in the same. I tried my best to be a supportive partner, reducing the stereotypical fetishization of bisexuality by educating myself and going to Pride, gay bars, etc., to be an ally to all people in the LGBTQIA+ spectrum. I may have been the straight guy, but I felt a sense of camaraderie because I too was in a, quote, queer relationship. We tried to curate situations in which she could engage with other women, not just performing after a long night of drinking. More and more, she seemed less interested if there were other men involved until she wanted to explore dating separately so that she could see women solo and started to feel trapped in our relationship, saying she felt solo poly. I was anxious about how that could affect our relationship, but a good partner does what they can to help their partner, right? So I agreed.
Let's come back to that later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So I agreed on the basis that we could close if needed. She started exploring in ways I didn't expect and eventually connected with someone, and she felt hard. The new relationship energy was definitely present, and instead of compersion, I felt dread, but I soldiered on, giving my blessing to go to hotels, and I even vacated the house so that they could save money and have privacy. Our relationship was becoming increasingly strained due to other factors. We had just been married for 5 years. And eventually she discovered that she was gay. This was obviously a big revelation for us, and I wanted to try and find a way for us to stay together because of the life we had built, living in our dream home with dogs, etc. She unfortunately felt that she couldn't be true to her authentic self if she was married and in a relationship with a man, and initiated a divorce. What ensued was an attempt at conscious uncoupling, but I think secretly I was hoping I could win her back, mostly because I had built my life around this person, and I was set to lose everything. She had someone that she was in love with, who wasn't me, and I was all alone. It's really difficult to not feel like my whole relationship was built on incorrect information, and that compulsory heterosexuality kept her from being her true self before we got together. I'm happy that she found herself, but I'm also really sad and honestly a bit bitter about the whole situation. For someone who said that they didn't want to be monogamous or cohabitate with anybody else, she's now doing both of that with a woman she started seeing while we were still married, and the envy and jealousy is still present. It's obvious I haven't moved on while she has, and I know that we're not the only people to have experienced a shift during COVID and with the introduction of the TikTok sexuality algorithm. I'm hoping you can help me wrap my head around this, as well as provide some insight for those of us in MOMs to navigate, or at the very least, end the relationship with kindness and as much closure as possible. Thank you for all that you do to help us heal, grow, and learn to love again.
Oh, my darling, thank you so much for writing and trusting us with this very tender letter. I'm so honored to answer it, and I hope that I can speak directly to your heart and your heartbreak when I say, I'm so sorry that this happened. And I can feel from your letter how much work you're doing to uplift, respect, and support your partner's journey. I feel all of the effort that you have been doing for years as an ally, as a member, as like an honorary member of the queer community in this queer relationship. And I know in my heart of hearts, I know that you're not holding your ex's identity against her, and that you're not bitter because of who she is, but instead because from Sam and I's perspective, you got taken advantage of in this relationship, and you did a lot to bend yourself to fit into the parameters of desire that your partner wanted, even when maybe you didn't want to. I can see how hard you tried to be exactly what this person wanted. And I want to uplift all the work and the effort that you've put into being a good partner, even after this relationship has devolved. And I also want to give you permission to be angry, to be bitter, to take up a little space and say, wow, I'm really hurt and disappointed that it unfolded this way. That doesn't make you any less of an ally, and that doesn't make you any less worthy of a partner or for a future partner. I have learned from Sam and from this podcast that sometimes we can't always access our higher feelings if we're denying ourselves the core feelings of hurt and anger, right? And guess what? Anger doesn't serve me long term. In fact, like if I allow myself to feel angry, I feel angry, and then I have permission to access my sadness. And that's where the healing is. And that's what I would like to do for you, is offer you permission to access your anger, so that you don't have to pretend to not be upset anymore. This is a huge loss and a huge shift, and it feels unfair because it is unfair, as so many things in relationships unfortunately are. So we're going to get into all of that musings and hopefully affirm the fuck out of you, so that you can, carry our words with you on your healing journey. But first, we're going to take a very quick break.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Sierra said before the break, which is, I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that your ex-wife treated you really poorly in how she did this uncoupling, right? Like in how she pursued this relationship outside of your marriage. And I think I absolutely extend her all the grace in the world. I'm glad that she figured out who she is, that she has a different understanding of that. I recognize that it's really hard, as a queer person, I recognize that it's really hard to understand our own sexualities, to feel like we need to be in relationship because of compulsory heterosexuality, right? Like all of this is really true. And the way that this played out was really hurtful. And it was hurtful to you, right? And I think the reality is that for sure, sexuality played a role in how this relationship fell apart. But I think at the end of the day, the sexuality actually had very little to do with how poorly she treated you in this, right? And if she had found another man out there to pursue a monogamous relationship after sort of destroying the monogamous relationship that you had, right? Like the outcome would still be the same. Like it would still be like, oh, wow, she really could have handled that better. And so I want to just say that because I want to name for you that a couple things. One is that I hope that this gives you permission to feel a little bit more angry and disappointed in her, right? Because like, I want to free you from the idea that you having feelings about how she hurt you is somehow like homophobic or like biphobic or something, right? Like, it's okay for you to feel hurt by the actions that she did that hurt you, right? And that doesn't mean you're a bad person or not a good ally. And I'm also saying it because I want to just like stave off the reverse of that, which might also be coming up, which is that she did this because she's gay, right? Which is absolutely not true, right? We get letters from people all the time who are trying to figure out how to practice their sexuality in respectful relationship with other people in ways that are communicative, that are ethical, in ways that are take into account what the other person wants and does, right? So the fact that she's queer or that she's gay isn't the issue here. The issue here is that she wasn't communicating well about what she wanted and what she needed, and that you feel deceived by the ways in which the rules of the relationship kept changing with your sort of tacit consent, but in ways that made you feel deeply uncomfortable, right? In ways that you felt you didn't have the power to say no to or to ask for something different. And like, that sucks, but that also has nothing to do with her being gay, right? Just like naming both of those things at the same time, because I want to be like really crystal clear about it in a way to help you in your healing through this, which is that I want you to be angry with this person. And I want you to see that like the way that she treated you was terrible, and that you have the right to be angry about it without also getting sort of tied up in this like, but I should be a supportive person to a queer person. And it's like, well, guess what, friend? Being a supportive ally is recognizing that also queer people can be awful too. You know, like, it's like, we're not perfect, right? We are actually humans who are capable of great things and also capable of a lot of messy drama sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, Sam's totally right. Your ex might have acted in a way that unraveled your relationship in not the most graceful way, not in a way that really honored the commitment that you made to each other. Everything. We hurt each other all the time. It's not that we're not saying that you're with this anger to go and be like, you did all of this to me. Because guess what? Like, this was her path. I look back on my relationships and I think about all the times that I really could have done a lot better. But at the time, I just couldn't. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to extricate myself gracefully or with compassion for my partners. And so I'm going to say to you very clearly right now that what we want from you is to feel empowered in distancing yourself from this person and validating your hurt so that you can start to heal from it, right? You can start to say, there's no equation that I need to solve to make this not happen the way that it happened. There's nothing that this person can give me, or there's no compassion that I can extend to this person, or continued support or continued understanding that's going to make this hurt go away. I need to tend to the hurt, right? This person's going to live their life as they deserve to, as you deserve to. But another great example of how multiple things can be true at the same time is, does it hurt that your partner doesn't want to be with you anymore? Yes. Do you want your partner to be with you then when it's not a reflection of their authentic self? No. Do people come out in relationships all the time? Yes. Is it understandable? Yes. We can't control how our life unfolds. Is it incredibly painful? Yes. Do you understand that, sexuality is a spectrum and a continued experience of unfolding and discovery? Yes. Do you wish that she didn't do that discovery while in relationship with you? If you had, this is all of these things. What I want you to practice is not folding to other people's desires, but instead upholding both. It's possible for you to say, there's no going back in time, but you said something in your letter like, a good partner just is supportive, right? Or whatever you said. And, I want you to imagine a world in which your partner in the future comes to you and says, I think it's important for me to explore my identity in this way. And that doesn't make you feel great. So instead of self-sacrificing, you say, my discomfort is worth taking up space. My discomfort is worth consideration. And then I'm hoping any future partner, it's not that you don't have to have an open relationship. It's not that you have to have a strictly monogamous, strictly heterosexual relationship in the future. You obviously have put a lot of work into demonogamizing your mind and expanding your understanding of sexuality and desire, etc., which I think is all really valuable and is only going to serve you in relationships in which the partner is equally invested in your self-exploration and your understanding of comfort and security within a relationship. Because what would have happened if you said, instead of saying like, yes, go for it, instead you said, I really love all of you, and it also makes me uncomfortable. How can I support you? How can I support this side of you without, I don't know, opening up your relationship or whatever, wherever the discomfort started to happen. I also want to acknowledge, I know discomfort is where growth happens. I know that many of these life lessons are lessons that we just sort of have to learn in the moment. It's not one you couldn't have known this was going to happen. And I also want to say, I think Sam hinted at this before, of this is not the path. If you're listening, this is not the guaranteed outcome. If you're listening to this and your partner wants to explore their queerness or they want to open their relationship, many people do this in a way that's really productive and healthy and maintain the security and sanctity of their partnership as they see it, as they've agreed to it, right? But to our letter writer, I want to say, unfortunately, that didn't happen here, and I want you to take up space in your pain for that, your upset, your frustration, and your anger. It sounds like you got the short end of the fucking stick here, right? It sounds like you're experiencing a huge heartbreak that you invested not just so much energy into the relationship, but so much sympathy and support into a journey that you don't get to see the end of. That's absolutely. It's sad no matter who you are.
For sure. Yeah. And, even in your letter, you talk about how there were other factors that were straining your relationship. And I also want to name that, yes, obviously this was a catalyst for how the relationship ended. And also, right, it sounds like that there was a lot of stuff that wasn't working super well in the relationship that wasn't just about her coming out as gay. And so I want you to hold some of that as well, not necessarily, again, to challenge the idea that it's this thing hurt me, right? This identity hurt me, or ethical non-monogamy was the thing that caused the issue, but instead to recognize that this is more complicated than just that, and that there's a lot of different factors at play here that are influencing how this relationship happened. And so I just want to name that because, again, I want to hold some of the complexity of this, right? I want you to be mad for sure. And I also know that healing for me, when it came to situations where somebody has caused me harm, has actually been helpful for me to let go of the person by sort of naming that this was more complex than I can just say, this person's a villain, right? There's a lot of things that were happening here. And it's liberating for me to have that, because then again, it's you can challenge the idea that oh, if I hadn't done this, then this wouldn't have happened. And then therefore this, right? Blah, blah, we're getting into the living through, trying to mitigate or trying to mediate the past, right? What are we trying to do here? And so I just want to name that as something to also take into account as you're figuring out what moving forward looks like for you. I think you do need to tap into that anger a little bit, right? And anger in a way that is healthy and productive, not in a way that is vindictive or harmful, right? But also recognize this is a really complex situation with two really complex people who are living in a really complex world, and that there's a lot of things that happened that sort of led to the demise of this relationship. And I'm so sorry that it happened this way, right? I'm so sorry that you're left holding what feels like the short end of the stick, and that she gets to go on and be happy with this person that she found, right? Like in the safety of knowing you were like on the back burner, right? Like all of that is just like so absolutely true and devastating. And I have nothing but empathy and love for how challenging this particular moment is for you. So I hope that these like musings and advice were received as being us trying to see and hold you in this, because that's really what Sierra and I are trying to do as we're talking about this really shitty situation that you found yourself in.
Yeah. We love you, and we know this is going to be a lot of healing, but you're on the right path, even when it doesn't feel like it. And we appreciate all the care and support you gave your ex, and now you deserve a little of it yourself.
Absolutely. For sure.
Thank you so much for writing.
We hope that this helps. All right, everyone. It is Friday, and on Fridays, we do our blind date, which is when we try and set you up with something that we think you are really going to like. Today, we're going to send you home with...
Okay, so it is a website?
Oh, no.
No. I'm trying to figure out the right word. It's a website,
okay.
I think. So I have mentioned this in some episode, whether it was the primary or on the Patreon, but I've started to see a registered nutritionist who specializes in disordered eating, and it's been super helpful and super empowering to unpack some unhealthy ideas that I have inherited about food and about the health industry and all of that stuff. And it just has made food so much less stressful for me and so much less confusing. Because I want to eat healthy, I want to eat balanced, but I also don't want to be bogged down with misinformation and pseudoscience and all the other baggage that comes from when you have disordered eating in your family, or if you have disordered eating adjacent ideas. But anyway, so Nourish is the website. I was going to say like app, platform, I don't know. It reminds me of like the very popular therapy apps or websites that like allow you to connect to a therapist. So Nourish is an app or a website that allows you to connect with a registered dietitian, and you can check right on the app whether or not it is covered by your insurance. And my understanding is like 94% of, it says it right on the website, 94% of Nourish patients pay $0 out of pocket. And that's because if you are lucky enough to have some form of insurance, typically a virtual weekly or monthly call with a dietitian is covered, because they perceive that as like being health forward and like hopefully. Yep. Yeah, exactly. They're in all 50 states. And so you can hunt is too aggressive a word. You can search for a dietitian or a nutritionist that is specialized in what you want to pursue, whether it's like athletics or pregnancy or just general health, or for me, disordered eating ideas, or disordered eating adjacent is what I call myself. And it was really easy to sign up, and I have loved my nutritionist. Shout out to Taylor. You have been like literally life-changing, and it's been free for me and so easy to use. And you like book it online and you find out if it's free through your insurance online. I just love it. So if you have been wanting to get nutritional counseling or support, and also like if you don't know what that looks like, nutrition counseling is sort of like talk therapy in that you get to use your hour however you see fit. You can talk about your misunderstandings about carbs, or you can meal plan for the week, or you can brainstorm protein supply sources, or you can figure out what are the hurdles between you and X, Y, and Z. So I didn't know what it was going to be like, and I've loved it so much. So if you're interested in some nutrition counseling, if you have issues like I do, or if you just want to have a more balanced approach to nutrition, you can check out Nourish. It's use Nourish, NOURISH.com.
Love it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, you get access to a weekly bonus episode as well as to those office hours. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need 2 random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts and his music. And remember, people can be more than one thing at the same time. They can be worthy of compassion and understanding and support, and they can also hurt us. 2 things can be true at the same time. Someone can be on a life journey that they deserve to pursue. Their authenticity is valuable and worth exploring, and also the exploration of that, how they get to that authenticity, can hurt other people. And we can hold those 2 truths in our hearts at the same time. And if all else fails,
just break up.